Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to Honest HR Nitrous. I'm Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me. This is the live stream I do a couple of times a week where you get to ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Anything related to careers, job search, interviews, resumes, hidden job market, posted job market, all that kind of stuff. It's all fair game. This is episode number 131 of Honest HR Nitrous, so thank you for being here. The title is The Truth About Today's Job Market. So we're going to be getting into that. We're going to be talking about the AI bubble and a bunch of other things. Special shout out as always goes to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. We also had a couple of people just join, so thank you for the show of support. Also to my Patreons, ditto you guys. You guys are awesome. To my super thanks donors, those are always nice to get. You guys know who you are. And to my viewers and participants, that's you. So thank you for being here. If you have been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of the video feed. Get in the chat box, get in the chat, let me know what questions you have, and I'll do my best to help you out. That's the name of the game. Okay, let's get cracking. So this is called The Truth About Today's Job Market. I think I was talking to somebody last week on one of the live streams here, and they were talking about how everything is, very pessimistic and that kind of stuff. And I was saying, like, well, in terms of the job market, there isn't, like, as I understand it, there isn't a big hiring crisis right at the moment. I mean, we can certainly check that out. And I encourage you guys to use AI tools when you can. Are they the be all end all? No, but they're useful tools in some cases. So for example, right now, we could ask, I just want to confirm this. So are there any major job market crises going on right now? My understanding is that the U.S. Job market is doing okay at the moment. Is that not the case? Let's see what it says. Because, we seem to be doing okay as far as I know. Isn't it a full-blown crisis like a recession? But most major labor indicators do show slowing weakness and even uneven conditions rather than strong growth. What's going on? So the job market news, there's just some random articles. Okay, what looks okay? Unemployment is still relatively low. Layoffs haven't spiked sharply. What's not great is job growth is weak. Yeah, and there's a few things contributing to that right now. Job openings have declined. Well, the problem with job openings, yes, that's definitely a thing, but that's something that's occurring as its own thing, not just connected to economic conditions right now. A lot of AI job search and stuff like that is contributing to that. Also, the continued decline in the post-job market as people move away from that because it's been ruined, quite frankly, by companies like Indeed and LinkedIn and stuff like that. Just the way that they're going about it and how AI has been incorporated into like spamming applications and all this kind of stuff is also contributing to that. Hiring is slow, so no hire, no fire. Yeah, many employers are cautious. Yeah, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. Worker confidence is dropping. Surveys show job market confidence has fallen with fewer people expecting improvement. It'll come, but it won't come immediately. That's the thing, under any scenario, as I believe. McLovin says, is the truth that it's hopeless? Absolutely not. It isn't hopeless. I mean, you've still got good job numbers and stuff. It's just that there's less dynamism. There's less people moving around at the moment. Underlying weakness. Okay, economists describe the market as shifting from extremely hot post-pandemic to something more normal. Yeah, economists usually don't know what the hell's going on, although they try their best. It's kind of nice for them, I suppose, that they keep themselves busy. The problem is that right now in the sort of socioeconomic world, we're off the map. Like there's been interesting things going on in the world of foreign relations with a lot of countries and things like this, and a lot of economic stuff going on since the beginning of last year, really, and before that. So we're really off the map. And then on top of that, you've got the whole AI thing that's happening right now. So is there a crisis? No acute crisis like unemployment spike yet. But yes, there's a noticeable slowdown and rebalancing in the job market. What this means for job seekers, jobs are still available, but competition is higher. That's always the case. That's always the case. Growth is uneven across industries. Yes, that's definitely true. Now, what I kind of wanted to touch on today is the AI bubble. And I'm going to see if I can pull something up here just very quickly, because I haven't really done this in advance. Here we go. So here's a Dow. Now, you've got this thing going up like this, like basically as a straight line. And I'm not like an expert stock market analyst or financial markets analyst. I mean, I have a master's degree in finance, but that doesn't mean anything. The thing that, as I understand it, what we've got going on right now is a bit of a bubble in the world of AI. You've got a lot of data centers, and a lot of stuff like that being built in the US. Not to mention like the app I was just using here. This is ChatGPT, and like for example, the company that creates ChatGPT, OpenAI, they haven't made a dime of profit yet. They're doing a thing where they're investing heavily in their infrastructure. That means they're building a lot of data centers. They're trying to bulk up. They're trying to make their product as good as they possibly can. Although they are heavily partnered with Microsoft right now, which really works against that. But and the idea is that they're trying to beat the competition and make this thing absolutely irreplaceable, indispensable, used for everything, a clear solution for everything. That's what they're trying to do. And they haven't really found a compelling way to monetize it yet. So what you've got these companies like going into massive debt, paying for data centers, buying up all the hard drives and all this kind of stuff, hiring lots of technical people to do this. And they're doing all this hoping that it will pay off, right? That's the basic idea. Now, what you've got right now is you've got something that looks somewhat similar to the dot-com bubble in 2000, 2001. That's what we've got going on right now. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to pop the way that the dot-coms did, but it's something that could happen depending on how they handle it, right? And I'd love to get into the business aspects of this, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So anyway, there's a chance that something is going to happen here. Either it's going to implode. Now, if it does, that will have consequences for not the economy as a whole, but for like the IT industry specifically. It'll be localized to just a couple of industries, particularly IT. And that will obviously be significant for people in the IT industry. But for people in the larger economy, it's not going to affect them directly. Just like, the dot-com bubble, when I don't know if anybody knows or remembers or cares, but in 2000, 2001, you had this thing called the dot-com bubble, and all people are investing into all these companies. Their stock was going way up. And they were betting on an idea that turned out to be false, that if they put a lot of money into it, then it would pay off later. Well, it didn't. People realized this, and then the whole thing collapsed, right? And a lot of those companies went bankrupt. They laid off all the people. And so in the IT industry, it was extremely significant. In the larger world economy, like, all the other industries, things like healthcare, education, heavy industry, they weren't really affected. Certainly not directly. They might have felt a little ripple, but nothing worth talking about. So it was very, very localized to being industry specific. So what we've got right now looks like that. Now, we don't know yet. The jury's still kind of out whether this strategy is going to work. all we know is that it's not sustainable. You can't just keep investing in it forever, putting more money into it without it paying off. You can't just do that forever. At some point, things have to change. Now, the problem is that if you care about what the market thinks, the companies won't swerve. They'll just keep going straight off the cliff. So there's some interesting business aspects. But that's what we got right now. And if that occurs, things like interest rates and stuff will generally go down, which is, I guess, good news for people that have debt and stuff, bad news for people that have investments. But, so that's kind of like the consensus of what's going on. People are just waiting to see what's going to happen. And, for this, I don't know if can I make this bigger? I guess not. Anyway, so it's going up straight. It's kind of, at the moment, it's kind of like plateaued right here. Now, is that the beginning of the decline? I don't think so, but you never know. I think we're going to go for a little while further, but it's getting to the point now where people are really noticing this and going, that doesn't look good. So that's where we are right now. Now, whether that happens or not, or whatever form it takes, the basic reality is the same. Jobs are available on the hidden job market like they always are. Right now, there's a lot of them. Even if the posted job market is declining, who cares about that? The jobs are still there, just that you get them a different way. Big deal. More people need to tune into this stuff. So what this means for people here is that if you're looking for a job and you're applying to posted jobs, you're looking on Indeed and LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and Monster, if that even exists, and all these other ones, that's fine, I guess, but you don't want to just do that. You need to look at the hidden job market, do things like direct outreach, work on your conversational skills, and this kind of stuff. That's what I'd recommend. I think people should do that regardless, but it's becoming even more important they do that now. Okay? And right now, if you know how to do this, you might have a bit of an edge over a lot of your competition who doesn't. So for the people that know how to do this, you have a real advantage right now because, most job seekers are not looking in the hidden job market. There's substantially less competition there. And they have 80% of the jobs there. So, you put 2 and 2 together, it's a double advantage. So that's why I'd recommend people learn this stuff. Now, if you're wondering how do you learn this stuff? Like, how do you tune into that stuff? It's actually very easy, okay? Like, I've done stuff. I always do this on my live chats, but I feel I have to do it because there's some people out there that are joining me that you guys don't know this. I'm just going to do this very quickly and just tell you. Okay, of all the jobs that are out there that theoretically one could get, how many of them are actually posted publicly? Meaning that I could find them on the internet if I do a job search or I look at job boards like Indeed and LinkedIn. Oh, I was dictating this to ChatGPT. So here. And here's the answer. Okay. So, only about 20 to 30% of jobs are posted publicly online. So this is an open secret. Everybody knows this. But if you're a young person, you're coming out of school, maybe no one's told you this, tune into this. This is where the jobs are, okay? What they taught you previously about going through recruiters to get a posted job, that does exist, but that's only 15% of the jobs that are available that hire that way, okay? So you can look there, and that's fine, but you've also got to look here if you want to maximize your chances of getting hired and getting a good job. Okay, so you could go into this. I highly recommend you to do your own research. Don't take my word for anything. I'm here just to point you in the right direction. Okay. Now, incidentally, you have another resource here. If you want to learn all this stuff with me and get all my advice and how you can get a job this way. I mean, every job I've had or all the work I've done in the last certainly 15 years plus has been in the hidden job market. If you want to learn all that with me, okay, check out my Get Hired course. Okay, that tells you how to get hired in the posted job market, how to get hired in the hidden job market. So if you want to learn that with me, that's the way to do it. Best bang for the buck around for the price of like 1 hour of a career consultant or career coach. You get my entire course. So check that out. There's a link in the description if you want to do that. Anyway, that's where everybody should be looking. Regardless of like, if you has anything to do with my course or not, you should be looking there, okay? And if you have questions about that, we can get into it. Mr. Shadow Truth is here, says the German job market is awful. You either have too little experience or are overly qualified or receive no response at all from your job application, which is why I'm independent now. Well, that's like, yeah, that plays right into what I was saying. I mean, it's the posted job market is getting saturated by AI. They're using AI increasingly to interview people. You got a lot of companies and a lot of services that will spam job applications to all the legitimate job postings in the posted job market. So like you're going up against competitors like other candidates that are customizing their resumes, customizing their cover letters, even doing interviews with AI assistants. Okay, so you can do this too. It's not hard. It just means you have to tune into the stuff if you're going to play that game, right? But the point is that this stuff is like adding up to make it appear tougher, especially if you're applying for those jobs the way you would have applied to them like 5 years ago. Okay, so that's kind of the thing. Shadow Truth says, oh, exactly. The jobs are there. The recruiters and businesses are just too out of touch and focused on lowering cost. No, incorrect. There's a lot of negativity there and a lot of assumptions you're making. Whenever people talk about out of touch and, they're too lazy, whatever, it's like wrong. There's a reason for what they're doing. It's just you don't understand it. That's why it appears that way to you, right? Now, hey, you don't have to listen to me, but I'm explaining if you're interested. The reason is for the posted job market. First of all, what you got to understand is that the posted job market has always been not ideal as a place to look for. Think about it. If you need help, like say you've got to do, I don't know, some little thing that you might do, like, I don't know, a garage sale. Why would you need help? Like, I don't know, someone's going to help you move, from one place to your new place, and you need help, right? So you post a job, right? Now, who would you rather hire? Would you rather hire some massive muscular dude that's moved a lot of heavy stuff in their time, but they're a stranger, you don't know them? Or would you rather hire your friend who maybe doesn't have a ton of experience moving things, but you trust them to handle all your personal stuff, all your valuables? You're not going to worry that they're going to, take your valuables, put it in their car, drive away, and never be heard from again, right? So are qualifications the be-all, end-all? No, they're not. There's other things too. The thing that we always talk about, which is a major thing, is soft skills, right? If you're absolutely insufferable, if the person you hire is absolutely insufferable, they're angry, they misunderstand what you say constantly, they never do what you're expecting, that's going to be a pretty big problem. It doesn't matter how many things they've moved in their life. That would not be the person to help you move, probably. That would not lead to a good experience, right? So, the soft skills definitely have to be there. You have to have good communication skills and you have to be easy to deal with, blah, 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 right? But more importantly, you need someone that you trust. Now, the problem with the posted job market is that you're hiring strangers, you're canvassing strangers. And that's why recruiters, who are the people that fill posted jobs, right? That's why they regard you with suspicion and, look at everything as a risk and all that kind of stuff. It's because you're probably an awesome, forthright, upstanding person. But the problem is they don't know you. They don't know that. They've never worked with you before. They don't know anyone that has worked with you before that can vouch for you. So you're being like eyed up and down with suspicion, when you apply, and that's why they're doing it, is because you're a stranger. Now, the hidden job market, the way it works is the way to get those jobs, in a word, is networking. There's many, many ways of networking. It's like an umbrella term for many different things, right? The most common method of tapping the hidden job market and getting hired there is something called direct outreach. And that's something where you reach out to the employers. You don't wait till they post a job. You go look at a company. Most companies don't have jobs posted, but yet they're hiring people all the time. So you reach out to the company you would like to work for, that's near you, that hires people like you. They do work that you can help them with, and you reach out. Is there a controlled process in how to do this? Is there somebody saying step 1, step 2, step 3? No, this is not a default thing to do. This is something that people who truly want to work there would do. This is all optional, right? So, you know what I mean? Like that's the nature of this kind of thing, because it's like volunteering. You don't get paid for it, but the reason why it's good is because it signals you actually care about doing that stuff. That shows you what motivates you when you volunteer, because you're not doing it for the money. You're getting something else out of it, usually enjoyment or satisfaction or whatever, right? So like the reason why you would apply to a company is not because they posted the job, but because you say, look, like, I want to work for you. You're right close by. You do this kind of work. I think that's fantastic. I'm highly skilled and highly trained in doing that work. I could do a lot for you. If ever you're looking, keep me in mind. That's how you tap the hidden job market in a nutshell. So anyway, I mean, it's very involved. You can see why I put all this in a course, right? Because there's so much to go through. So anyway, but that's the deal. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Get in the chat. We got 30 people here. This is a Q&A. I really have no agenda of what to talk about. I'm just talking off the top of my head. So give me some questions, what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, and I will do my best to help you out. How's that for an unbroken, rambling trip to nowhere? We've had 2 people in the chat so far. That's good. We're waiting for the other 27. In the meantime, while I have some dead air to fill while I'm waiting for questions, as always, as I bump my microphone, check out my course. This is the one everybody's probably more interested in, Get Hired, right? So link in the description box below. I've also made videos, one video in particular that explains the course, how it works, what you get, what it does. So that's also linked in the description box below. And I have videos like that on each of my courses in the interest of transparency, so you know exactly what the deal is. The other one that people here might be interested in is this. It's called Write Like a Professional. That's where if you want to improve your communication skills. So this can be really useful, for example, if you've got a corporate career and you want to be seen as someone that should be promoted up into management or into a supervisory position. The single most useful thing you can tack on to show your potential is communication skills. So everything I learned from going from a supervisor when I started to ending up as a CEO when I finished, everything I learned about communication skills along that journey I put into this course. So if you want to check that out, that has been a lot of use to a lot of people. Once again, link in the description box, and I have made its own dedicated video describing the course and showing you how it works and what you get and all that. So it's as transparent as possible. Still waiting for questions. Let me know what you guys are wondering, what you're struggling with. We talked briefly about the sort of the job market, at least in the US. We did. Other countries, it varies. Right? Where I am in Canada, it's a slightly different story. Marcelo says, greetings from Brazil. Well, greetings, my friend. It's summer in the southern hemisphere right now. I'm enjoying the Canadian winter up here, while my good friend Marcelo might be kicking back on the beaches of Rio right now, and I'm not jealous at all. So yeah, I remember the good old days in the 1920s and 30s where they used to wear their business suit at the beach, right? That's how you know you're good. You're wearing a 3-piece suit at the beach. They would take off, the men would take off their like shoes and socks and paddle, but then they'd still be in like a 3-piece suit. So, it was the style at the time. Let me know your questions. If anybody's got any questions about careers or job search or anything like that, get in the chat. If you have been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to get into you should be able to see a chat box nearby where, depending on what device you're using to watch this, and let me know what you're having to deal with, or what you can't figure out, what's perplexing for you. I find that they do a terrible job in general of teaching young people, especially about the job market and job search. You get this sort of theoretical, arcane version of the posted job market. That's what they kind of say, if they do say anything at all, and you're left to just figure the whole thing out on your own. Gigi, is that how you say her name? I'm going to say it that way. Okay. Don't be insulted. So Gigi says, are there college degree programs worth the investment for future jobs in demand? Thank you. Yeah, well, that's one of the purposes of post-secondary education, right? Is to prepare people for jobs. It's not the entire reason. There's a lot of study for study's sake to further, human knowledge, right? But a very common reason for everybody to take education is to prepare you for the job. Now, if you're looking for specifics, right? I'm not an expert in that. And I don't think many people are. That's the thing. Nobody has a crystal ball that you can rub and say, this skill will be needed in the future. But you don't really need to know that. You don't really need to figure that out. You see, a lot of stuff that people have been doing for a long time, they still do now, right? We have doctors, we have accountants, right? We have construction workers, we have scientists, we have engineers, we've got architects, we've got lawyers, we've got, these things have been around for a very long time, and they're not going anywhere soon. Even with AI around, they're not going anywhere soon. They're going to be here in some way, shape, or form. They will have to evolve like they always do, but they will still be here, right? Now, the other thing is that if they do evolve, being a younger person that's just kind of come out of school, you might actually have an edge over some of the veterans that have been in that industry for a very long time. They might be finding it hard to evolve and to, pivot and go with the swing of things, right? But you might have an unfair advantage in that, your training is much more recent and you're much more down with new technologies and new methods that are coming in now. So that's the thing. You don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. And just so you know, it isn't a case of, usually it isn't a case of, you learn some futuristic thing like when you're young at school, and then you come out and then you just go into it and then you stay in that for the rest of your life. It's a constant thing. The world is constantly updating itself and readjusting and pivoting, so you know what I mean? Now, just to actually give you an actual answer for that question instead of what I did, which is just ramble, let's ask ChatGPT just for the sheer hell of it. Okay, are there college degree programs worth the investment for future jobs in demand? Let's just see what ChatGPT has to say. Okay, it's going to do the same thing I did, which is just talk about it in general. Fields with strong demand and growth: computer science, software engineering, data science, AI, and machine learning. Yeah, those are very trendy. They're also very volatile too. That's the trade-off, right? There's a lot of competition. Tech skills are broadly applicable and often pay well with strong growth projections. Okay, so engineering, all these different types. Healthcare, yep, definitely, certainly in the West. Business and finance, always a popular choice. So yeah, like all this kind of stuff. It's boring, but it's true, These things aren't going away anywhere soon. We will always need these people. If you don't have these people, society stops. So that's the thing. Mr. Papu says, how would you recommend to approach posting on LinkedIn to be noticed by hiring managers and grow the network? Well, first of all, I got to say that's probably not the most effective thing you can do. By far. I don't know the particulars because I haven't done that. I haven't gone into LinkedIn groups and posted. I think that stuff is kind of dead, at least on LinkedIn. In my experience, it's not really. It's just a lot of the groups were filled up with people advertising, salespeople just trying to pitch their products constantly and putting out ads and things like this. What you do is you do it to people. You do one-on-one things to people. You don't just spam them some kind of message and you don't post some kind of promotional thing. The concept is that people don't respond to somebody trying to sell them something. How well do you read spam emails? Do you get spam emails? Some random person or thing that you don't know sending you, buy this product, a product you've never heard of from a person you've never heard of, and it's not talking to you in any kind of personal way. It's just like this generic, god-awful sales guff, How well do you respond to that? Do you respond to any of those and say, hey, tell me more about, this product? Do you do that? Is that the pattern of behavior that you yourself follow? No. So a lot of people that can help you, which are at least one level above you, okay, they behave the same as you do. I don't know you. I don't know what the hell this is. You're just pushing your thing on me. I'm not interested, right? What actually works is if you go to someone relevant, okay, and you initiate some communication, not where you're pushing something on them and asking for them to do something for you. You do the opposite. You say, look, here's something I'm offering that, might make sense for you. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to do anything. It's something that of benefit to do. I'm helping you. Are you interested? That kind of thing. People tend to respond a hell of a lot better to that, right? Now, the thing is, a lot of networking is like that, right? For example, things like informational interviews. I've done a ton of informational interviews with CEOs that I didn't know and that didn't know me. And I reached out to them over LinkedIn and I ended up going and meeting them. And that's where a lot of the consulting clients I got from my consulting business came from. And the thing is that, there's several kind of things that are going on at once, but one of them is that, either it's very flattering that, somebody's saying, hey, I'd love to get your opinion on this, or whatever the thing is you're proposing. It makes them feel good. It's like, oh, how often do you hear somebody coming to you and saying, listen, I think what you do is awesome. I would love to be able to sit down with you and just get your opinion on it, a couple of, topics that you know about in this space, in this industry or whatever. I would just like to learn from you. I just want to hear your opinion. Do you get that a lot? How does that feel when you get somebody saying that to you in a very polite, professional way? It feels like, sure, I can give you half an hour. That's usually the result you get, right? So it's things like that, right? You're getting something out of it, right? So it's not that you're contacting someone and saying, give me a job. You do something for me. That's why I'm talking to you. It's the opposite. It's like, here, I'm giving you something. That kind of thing. So that's the general principle involved in these things, right? Excuse me. God. So I wouldn't recommend, if you're posting on LinkedIn or whatever, it wouldn't be here, it's all about me, buy my thing, give me a job, do this for me, do that for me, tell your friends, put in a good word for me. That's not how the approach that usually works. It's the opposite. It's like, here's something I can do for you. This is how it can benefit you, no catch, just, if anyone's interested, let me know. That like it's that type of thing that generally works. Johnny says, hey, I found a job opportunity through networking. However, the executive I met says he cannot give me the salary I want and it will be lower than my ask. Can I still negotiate when I get an offer? You can negotiate anything, right? Yes, you can. Now, will they agree to it? No. There's no way of knowing that. They might, or they might not, but there's no way of knowing this, but you can try. You know what I mean? You can always negotiate. Gene Mims says, when are you being asked by your boss to do something you don't want and doesn't have to do? When are you being asked by your boss to do something you don't want and doesn't have to do? Not part of your job at all. How to politely say no? Well, there isn't an answer for that because it depends on your situation. Now, depending on what they're asking and how reasonable it is or unreasonable, you might not automatically say no. You might say something other than no, which is like maybe a conditional yes, like saying, I don't know how to do that. If you can, if I can consult with that person or if somebody's going to explain that to me, then I suppose I could give it a try, something like that, right? But I think I know what you're getting at. Like you're saying, they've clearly overstepped. Not only is it not your responsibility, but maybe it's outside of your training. You don't know how to do that, and in any case, it's not your job. So the best way to deal with touchy subjects like this is not to make a statement and say, no, I can't do that because whatever. It's to ask a question back at them and saying, is that part of my job? I wasn't aware that was part of my job. Did you guys change my role? Right? And then let them answer that. Either they're going to have to say, yes, it is part of your job, or they have to say, no, we changed your role and now it's this. Like they're having to commit to that now, right? And then if they said that, if I was in your shoes and someone said that to me, I would go, oh, okay, I wasn't aware of this. I'm just going to confirm that with, maybe our common boss or somebody else or with HR. So what you're saying is like you're not saying no, you're just clarifying, like, wait a minute, are you telling me that that's now my job? If you are telling me that officially, let's just check that, because I suspect that might not be true, but it's not what I'm saying, it's what you're saying. I'm just trying to understand what's going on here. Right? So you could try that approach. I mean, that if you're basically wanting to put a veil on a no, that's a kind of non-confrontational, totally realistic, reasonable way of doing it. So you could try that. Gary says they need to teach kids the inevitability of star-based behavioral questions in interviews. UK civil service love them. Yeah, they're very trendy. Yeah, it's just the format for answering behavioral questions. There's no such thing as a star question. It's called a behavioral question, like you said. I've heard people refer to them as star questions. They're not star questions. Other people say you need to respond in the star format to like everything. It's like, no, you only need to use the star format when they ask you a behavioral question. When they ask you, tell me about a time, like something from your past, right? But I absolutely agree with you that, you know, they need to teach kids this because I know in a lot of places they don't seem to, you know? But even that is not really the real issue. Star questions come up in job interviews, you know, done by recruiters. What they need to teach kids is how to have a conversation, how to reach out to somebody that can help you, you know? Some of the concepts involved in that. That's what they need to do. Because formal job interviews where they ask star questions are going away. You know, it'll always be around, but right now it's being eroded by a lot of things, one of which is stupid AI stuff. You know, where you get, like, you pay for a service and that service will take your resume and your cover letter and doctor it up with AI and then just spam it to, like, you know, 1,000 jobs, right? You know, so it's like, okay, so if that's going on and you have an actual candidate trying to apply to those jobs, there's so much competition, so many applicants, that statistically their odds of getting that job go way down. So it's being eroded, you know, by a lot of things. But you're not wrong, Gary. Gigi says, or Gigi, you gotta say, if you're too cool to have a French accent, you gotta say it with an English accent to show how cool you are. So Gigi McGlockton says, when a job application asks to list every job in the last few years, is it still okay to omit a job that only lasted a few months and the duties are not applicable? Sure, why wouldn't it be? Those are decisions you can make. Yeah. The trade-off is that if all your dates are accurate, then it might show a work gap. If you're leaving, like if you're leaving off a job that you only worked at for a couple of weeks, that's one thing. If you're leaving off a job that you worked at for a year, then there might be like a conspicuous work gap. If it's a past work gap, that's usually not a big deal for recruiters. But if it's a current work gap, it's like a big gap between now and the last job you worked, then that's going to be much more visible. It's going to be much more of a concern. And they're going to treat that as a red flag. So just be aware of that. So if you had a job, even if it's just like a menial kind of thing, depending on details, I would probably include it if you can. Not that you're like using it as like, you know, here, you know, this is why you would hire me, but it would just be something to show that I don't have a work gap, you know. Gene Mims says, thanks a lot for your videos. You helped me a lot as a junior to learn how business and the job market actually are. I don't comment a lot or at all, but wanted to say thanks for your videos. Well, thank you very much, Gene Mims. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that you got some kind of value over this stuff that I do. My YouTube channel is still like a sideshow for me. You know, I'm a business consultant, so I just do this for fun. I've actually been ramping it up. I've been doing more of it now than I've done previously, but yeah, it's great that, you know, people are getting some value out of it. So, and thank you for being so gracious and letting me know. Deep says, I have an interview tomorrow as reinsurance specialist, direct business, but my experience is in broker side. Just been in this experience for only 3 months. So how to convince the interviewer? Well, that's all one sentence, and you're using some industry lingo, so I don't know. I don't know what that is. So reassurance specialist, direct business. So is that like an insurance, like a business-to-business, like insurance broker or something like that? But my experience is in the broker side, just been in this experience for only... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a very specific question. I don't even know where in the world you are, too. So it also is going to depend on the person you're talking to. So if you know who's going to be interviewing you, go and look them up in things like LinkedIn and see if you can find like you could see like the equivalent of their resume, you see their background. So if you know, like, oh, they came up through, insurance, they themselves were an insurance specialist for 25 years. That would be useful. Then like, okay, they're familiar with this stuff that I know. So if I talk to them in those terms, then that should resonate with them. If alternately they've come up through sales or something, then, you'd have to try and frame your answers more towards someone like that. They might not understand all the technicalities, but they understand, like, what the customer sees or something like that. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing you would have to do to answer that question. Find out, if you can, who's interviewing you. Right? They're looking for someone who's qualified. They're looking for someone who's enthusiastic about doing the role. That's critical, right? And they're looking for someone personable that can get along with everybody, not rock the boat, not create a ton of interpersonal conflict. They can work well and collaborate with people. They can work as part of a team. So that's what you're having to convince them of, when you go in there. You're qualified, you know your stuff, you're a team player, you can work with a bunch of other people, and have it go smoothly, and you're passionate about doing this role. You really want to do this specific job. So you could explain why. If you're passionate, you explain why. I think this is a great job because fill in the blank. Because it combines all my skills into one role, or because, it combines the technical skills I have with the personality traits I have into one role, or, something like that. Or my whole family are, insurance specialists or whatever. And, I grew up hearing all about it, and, and that's my ambition too. And this is the perfect job for me. It's a great opportunity. That's why I really want it. Something like that. You put all that together, and hopefully that will convince people. Gigi McLaughlin says, thank you. And they don't seem to have taken offense to how I bastardized their name repeatedly. That's good. That's good. Diplomacy, right? Will get you far. Deep says, yes. And I can't agree more. Thank you, Deep. Hopefully that makes sense. Deep says, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm currently in the UK. The UK. I was there. I think I was last there in 2024. Interesting things have been happening there, if you believe social media. There's the social media view of the world, and there's the real view of the world, So it's interesting to see that contrast. Yeah, I think the stuff I saw for the UK, I think most recently that was kind of weird was the whole, like, just stop oil thing. Did you get mixed up in that stuff? Like, did you have any interaction with that stuff? That looks messed up. I don't know what was going on there, but that really did not convince me to go back to the UK for a couple years. It's like, usually you try and live your life to minimize drama and conflict with people for no reason. But it seemed like they were trying to do the exact opposite of that for fun. So it was strange. Get in the chat. We got 28 people here. Thank you for being here. Let me know your questions. If you're wanting all my advice in one place, with how to get hired in the hidden job market, which I haven't fully covered on my main channel, check out my courses. Check out my Get Hired course in particular. Where is it? This thing here. Link in the description box under this video to the course, and also to a video that describes the course. So how it works, what you get, all that kind of thing. Check it out. A lot of people taking that course got a lot of value out of it. So if that's what you're looking for from me, there it is. I don't provide coaching. I don't do that kind of stuff for like jobs or careers. But I put my sort of knowledge and advice into courses. A better bang for the buck. It costs the equivalent of like 1 hour of time from a career coach. So with me for that, you get the entire course, which is many, many hours of videos going through everything. So check it out. And I also have, where is it? I also have this one here that people here might be interested in. If you're wanting to learn communication skills, advanced communication skills, everything I learned from going from a supervisor to a CEO in terms of communication skills, I put that into this course. So check it out. This can help you be seen as somebody that should be moving upwards, that has a lot of potential. Best thing to tack on to your technical skills is communication skills. So if you're wanting a career in management, or you just want to move up and be a senior version of what you do now, more money, more responsibility, more impact, if that's what you're looking for, maybe even more security in your job, check this out. Communication skills are the way to go. Once again, link in the description box under this live stream, and there's also another video that describes this course, how it works, what you get, the whole deal, so it's as transparent as possible. Yeah, still waiting on questions. We got 32 people here. If you've been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, get in the chat and let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, and I will do my best to help you out. I know some people listen to these while they are driving or running or doing something like that, so they can't always just type in a question or whatever. That's fine. Don't crash your vehicle. Don't crash your bicycle. Don't crash your unicycle, whatever you happen to be on, your pogo stick. Don't crash it listening to me. I know I just have this magnetic effect. How could you not tune in 100%? I get that. It's only human. But safety first. Deep says, I had a recent interview. They rejected me even though I had insurance experience. They were saying as they need the exact reinsurance experience, hoping for the best tomorrow. Excuse me. Deepak, just go in there. Do everything you're supposed to do, okay? Rehearse your answers to common questions. Get all your stories for the behavioral questions. Usually, I recommend 10 stories from your past of various types, so that whatever behavioral question they ask you, you have something to say. It's on the tip of your mind. It's vetted. It's rehearsed. It's ready to go. So they will never stump you by asking a behavioral question, because whatever they ask you, you're going to pull out one of those 10 stories, the one that it's closest to, and maybe adapt it slightly depending on the wording of what exactly they asked you, right? But then you're good there. Do your research on the company. Spend at least 5 minutes just looking up what the company does, how it's structured. Some people are really into all the core values and that kind of crap. It's all just PR. It's not real. It's just what they want, the stakeholders outside the organization to think their values are. That's all it is. But knowing what they do, knowing are they a product company, service company? Where's their headquarters? Where are their branches? Are there divisions located in different parts of the world? Or is it all in one place? Is this a branch office or is this the main office? And what division it's in? Things like that. That's pretty important. You go in there, you know that. And then all you got to do is go in there and be super friendly, super agreeable. Whatever they want to ask you, sure, not a problem. Fire away. Let's do this. Very easy to deal with. Be the person that they would want to work with. This is a free sample of who you're going to be if they hire you. So just be helpful and agreeable. Don't get upset over it. Even if you go in there and they're borderline rude, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people like that. A lot of them don't even realize that they're just being rude. You know what I mean? They're just tuned out, but just don't take it personally. Just, whatever, just swing with it. And, that's all you can do, and you have no way of knowing exactly what they're looking for. You just do your best, and it's a numbers game. You do enough job interviews, you're going to do well. You're going to get a bite, right? It's like flipping a dice. The dice has 6 sides, right? The die has 6 sides. If you need a 6 to get hired, you flip the dice. That's like one job interview. You know what I mean? You might get it on the first try. It might take you 12 throws to get it, but you're going to get it. You know what I mean? So best of luck with that. Deep. Gigi McLaughlin says, will your courses also benefit a high school graduate just entering college? Just English pronunciation. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Bien sûr. Vous avez raison. Yes, absolutely. All 3 of my courses, the 3 that are on the screen, if you're like, say, I don't know, if you're in high school, you could understand it, you could do it. The MBA course, I think you could. There might be a couple of, isolated topics in there that might be a bit hard to wrap your head around, but I think that, the majority of it, absolutely you can. The other 2, absolutely. The get hired thing, for sure. The write like a professional, for sure. The get hired thing, if you're doing stuff on the hidden job market, you may not be able to follow all the advice because of your age. There's a limit to what people under a certain age can do generally, or it would be appropriate for them to do, like go off and go and contact business people and go meet with them, stuff like that. So, but you can certainly learn it. Yeah, it's well within your ability to comprehend. This stuff is really not that complicated. The communication skills are not that hard to understand. The get hired stuff is not that hard to understand. And a lot of the MBA stuff is not that hard to understand. If you're of moderate intelligence, moderate ability, you certainly can wrap your head around these things. So that's what I'd say. I've honestly never thought much about that before. So you're forcing me to think of this on the spot, but that's what I'd say. If you're just entering college, yes, absolutely. The books and the material is all in English. So if you're not strong with English, then that could be an issue, I suppose, but not the difficulty of the material. Deep says, thank you. You're welcome, Deep. Best of luck. Best of luck tomorrow. Prime says, what should we do when they ask questions which are factual information we don't know? Well, that depends on the context. Like if in general, if somebody asked that of me, my automatic default answer would be, I don't know, but I can very easily find out if you just give me a moment, and then you either have a device with you or you have, like in this case, I'm live. I've got access to a browser. I could even put the browser on the screen. So, it would be hard to be stumped, by anything, especially anything factual. The only way, you could be stumped by that, I imagine, is if it's confidential or personal or something, it's not publicly available. In which case, why would they be asking that? You know what I'm saying? But depending on the context, if you're in an interview where they don't allow you a device, they give you 10 seconds to respond, and you know what I mean? Like if they create all these constraints, then then it might not be possible. You just say, unfortunately, I don't know that off the top of my head, but if I had access to my phone, I could tell you in 10 seconds. Now it might be. I want to make sure you're not referring to when they ask you estimation questions, because a lot of times in job interviews, this was kind of trendy a while back. These people think they're so clever, so they would ask estimation questions. They would say, how many tennis balls could fit into this room? And they'd be dead serious. They'd put you on the spot, right? Now, of course, the answer is, well, I don't know. I can't count them. But what they're wanting to do in this stupid way is they're wanting you to make an educated guess based on understanding the idea. So you could say, okay, well, let's see. This room is approximately 12 feet by 8 feet by 15 feet. Now, that, 12 times 8 times 15 is approximately this. So that many cubic feet. And I know that they sell tennis balls in these packs of 12 or something. And I know that about 4 of them would take up about a cubic foot. If you compress them a little, maybe 5, so let's say 5. So 5 packs of tennis balls at 30 tennis balls per cubic foot. You multiply the two together, you get approximately, 15,000 tennis balls. So I would say in the neighborhood of 15,000 tennis balls could fit in this room, right? And they go, excellent job. That's the right answer. And then they score you high. And it was just to see if you could do this extremely simple process of estimation that everybody probably learned how to do in grade 5, like the 5th grade. But they don't tell you that's what they're probing for, right? So it sounds like, oh my God, I'm stumped, because you don't know the exact answer. All they're wanting you to do is do a very simple process of guesstimation, where you explain out loud, here's what I'm doing. And they go, okay. I can't remember exactly what the point of that is. I think these people who are generally pretty dumb, this is their version of what they think smart people can do, So I think that was the reasoning behind it. I can't remember what the actual reason was. But guesstimation questions were very trendy about 5 to 10 years ago. So I don't know if that's what this is. But if they say I don't know, what year was Neville Chamberlain born? You're like, Neville who? And then, I'm sorry, time's up, you fail. It's like, you know what I mean? I don't know what the point of that is, but a lot of these things don't need a point. This is posted jobs. So remember, the prevailing attitude is a worker is a worker is a worker. This one doesn't work out. Oh, well, no big deal. We'll let them go, replace them, and get on with our lives. That's the attitude, right? That's why this process is allowed to be so stupid, because they only care about it up to a point, and then they don't. That's why they focus on efficiency, right? Doing it for as cheaply as possible. How fast is X? These are pretty easy to forget. Yeah, what's X? I know you're saying like a thing, but what are they going to say? Like how fast is the speed of light or something like that, or speed of sound? I suppose if they're asking stuff like that, then there's maybe a chance they're trying to correlate it with your general knowledge or your level of education, possibly. I think that's pretty flimsy if that's what they're doing, but you never know. Yeah, this with the time is up happened a couple of times recently. Okay, it sounds like you've encountered that a couple of times. Anyway, last call for questions. We got 32 people here. Let me know if you have any questions. You wouldn't want me to just talk about my courses again, would you? This is a Q&A. I don't have an agenda, so I'm just here answering your questions. So if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be winding this down in a little bit. I will be back on Friday. I do live streams on Fridays. I'm thinking of changing that, actually. Instead of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to see if I can swing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like just 3 days in a row, and then that's it. That might be something I experiment with in a couple of weeks. We'll see how that works. Prime says it was about the speed of a structure in programming, but no one memorizes them as they are too many. Yeah, that's probably what a recruiter would do. Like, that sounds like what a recruiter would do. They themselves aren't the technical authority, but they're having to hire people for a technical role. So in order to try and demonstrate in some way that you actually know the technical things, they reduce it to this kind of crap so that they can ask these questions when they themselves know. Like, you can hire an engineer when you yourself are not an engineer, but you're having to test their engineering knowledge. Like, it's so stupid. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, listen, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're all wrong, Prime. That thing they're asking you, the speed of a structure in programming, maybe that's something that you should memorize. If you do some research and you find out that that's a common question, and they're actually expecting you to know this, then it might make sense to learn the answer to that question, just in case it comes up again. But do your own research and see if that's the case. Marcelo says, we still wear that kind of stuff here in Rio despite the heat. Loved your live stream. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. You're absolutely welcome, Marcelo. And I'm amazed. If you're anywhere near Rio or the beaches in Rio or anything fun in Rio, I got to admit, I'm surprised you're here listening to me. So I appreciate it. And thanks for your words, my friend. Best of luck to you. Prime says, the interviewer was a tech person who asked me this after I solved their assignment. Okay, so maybe it was like a bonus question. You get bonus points, as it were, for memorizing that. For if you've been doing it so many times that you've even committed to memory some of these constants or some of these things, maybe that was some kind of indicator of exceptional knowledge in that area. I'm not sure. Gary says, is there ever a good time to get up and walk out of an interview if the interviewer was rude? There's always a time to do that if you really want to split hairs. Like if somebody starts to get violent or somebody's threatening you or, like that kind of stuff, obviously then it would be appropriate. But, I mean, in the absence of gross impertinence, like they're insulting you, they're just being a jackass. You know what I mean? Like they're just being a jerk. You get that, right? I'm sure you guys don't need me to tell you that. I'm sure you've encountered a bunch of jackasses on your own. Especially getting a job. You get little Hitler syndrome. You get people that you give them a little bit of power and it goes right to their head and they start lording it over everybody, making people wait for them, not having to be polite to them, and things like this, because it's like a show of power. You still get some idiots that do that kind of stuff. If it's just minor, I wouldn't get up and walk out. It's obviously the thing you want to do, but the problem is that you're burning your bridges doing that. You put so much effort and work into this stupid thing so far. You might as well just see if you can endure just a little bit more of this process. Just see if they'll offer you the job. You know what I mean? If not, oh well. But when you get out and leave, it means that, okay, you save your ego, right? But if there was a chance you could have benefited from this, they could have given you the job or whatever, you just lost it. You know what I mean? So it's like you lose when you do that. It's satisfying on a personal level, I suppose, but you lose by doing it. It's the definition of losing. So, I wouldn't do it unless it was extreme circumstances. You know what I mean? Prime says, I was asking him how does this, I guess, relate to the job, but he just said it's a basic thing to know. Okay, well, whatever. It doesn't really matter how they justify themselves, and told me to go there and read about it. Listen. Especially in interviews with technical people, obviously their strength is that they have the technical chops, and that's definitely a good thing. But where they usually make up for being awesome in one area and then they fall flat on their face in another is this kind of stuff. Their interpersonal skills suck. And that's what we have here. We got them asking you a question that's confusing, that seems irrelevant. And when you ask about it to them, they give you something that's even more confusing. and you doubt its veracity, you think it's BS. This is a prime example. They're not endearing themselves to you. They're making you feel awkward. They're making you feel pessimistic. What exactly is the point of that? Like, does that do them any good? No. Does that you do any good? No. Was this a huge ruse to see how you would behave under personal stress? Like if they are rude to you or purposefully confusing or something? Was this a big test to see how you handle it? I would say not, because it's not very sophisticated if it is. You know what I mean? So I would suspect that this person is just bad at interviewing and bad at picking questions. They have their own little quirks, what they think is important. Great. We all do. But this is only important to them. This is not important in the wider world. You know what I mean? That's what I'd highly suspect. So that would be my take on it. You can't control this stuff. You always encounter this. Just do your best and don't sweat it. You know what I mean? You have no way of knowing what this person is looking for, what they really think of you. You're not going to know that. Just do your best and then move on to the next thing. In the meantime, if they want to call you back and go further with you, sure, whatever. You're free. But keep moving forward, It's like this person is pushing you away more than anything else by being confusing and off-putting. You know what I mean? Anyway. So there you go. There are 29 people or 26 people, depending on what thing I look at. Thanks for being here. I'm going to be winding this down now. Prime says, he also said time is over 20 to 30 minutes because it was actually over, which was weird. Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, some people are just not organized enough to run an interview on schedule, that's part of it, right? Then I proceeded to ask my questions if I had any. Yeah, I wouldn't, Prime, don't worry about it. Just keep moving forward. Now, if every interview you go to, they ask a weird question like this, or they ask this same question, then obviously you should take it a lot more seriously. But there's always going to be random things happening. That's just how it goes. You can't let it fluster you or make you question every single thing you're doing. Okay? You're welcome, Gigi McLaughlin. Thank you to Gigi. Thank you to Gary, to Prime, to Marcelo, to everybody who participated today. You guys are awesome. I'll be back on Friday. If you got any more questions, come back then, and we'll go from there. Thanks very much. Check out my courses, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.